units back up, but all the schools were operable until the end of the day. So we think after the storm, and we had 136 schools without power, we had 4 buildings significantly damaged. We had a whole bunch of people working hard over the weekend, nonstop. And these are people on staff, but also community members, some parents. We had principals, we had executive directors, division soups, custodians, nutritionists, all working over the weekend to get our schools ready because they understand how important it is for kids to be in school. I was at Pew Elementary School today, for example, and that was, some of you will recall seeing that big tree in the courtyard falling on the walkway and into a classroom. If you were to go there today, you would see that you wouldn't even know that a tree had fallen. You'd see remnants of a stump, but hardly anything on the ground where the tree was. And the classroom is fixed already, the walkway is fixed, you wouldn't even know. And those kids were there today, Pew Elementary School, and I got surrounded by a bunch of second graders, and they were happy to be in school with their colleagues and their classmates. And then when I went to the team center, the kids were working like normal. And so that's what we want for all of our kids. We couldn't do that for 50-some schools last night. We think we're going to have, we will have more schools online tomorrow. We will have more schools online tomorrow. We'll tell you, hopefully somewhere around 6 o'clock, hopefully before 6, but we want to make sure we give accurate information to our communities. We still won't have all the schools back up, okay? We still won't have all the schools back up. We'll tell you the number later this evening. And hopefully over the next day, we'll really decrease the number of schools where the kids can't go to school, okay? So that's what's going on. Keep in mind, this is a hot time of year. And in May, June, July, August, September, October, you're going to ask me about air conditioning, and I'm going to say the same thing. We're going to have some air conditioning units go down, whether there was a storm or not, and we're going to try to get them back up as soon as we can. And that's one thing. If we do go out for a bond, for example, that'll be a big part of it because we have some failing systems. Last year, I requested and we got 100 temporary air conditioning units, and now we've added 120 more. So we think we'll be prepared for August a little bit better than we were last year. All right. I think with that we can go to questions.
First one over here, we'll come over here once we finish.
You mentioned it's a little warm, and you obviously knew the AC questions were coming. When you say a little warm, temperatures are about 90 degrees right now, and we've been speaking to so many parents who say their classrooms where their students are have no AC. I mean, how can you have students study without these basic necessities, and why not just close schools until you get that sorted out? Otherwise, you're asking students to study in these high temperatures.
So we monitor the temperature very closely in all of our schools. And in 2 schools we had to close them because of the rising temperature. And so the question then becomes what is too hot and what is too uncomfortable, what's unsafe and what's uncomfortable. And everybody has a different range. So we ask our maintenance people to go out and we check the temperature. If it's too hot, we're going to close the school. But we check the temperature and we check whether the temperature is rising or whether the air conditioning is cooling the building so the temperature is falling. So it's so it really depends on the school, and we're looking at temperatures to stay in the 70s. And even that might be a little bit too uncomfortable for depending on the type of kids that you have. For example, there are some classrooms where you have students with disabilities where the temperature will make that big a difference. So we are looking at every school case by case, and I'm telling you, if we shut the school down, it was too hot. If we didn't, it's because we managed to get the air conditioning fixed. I recognize that some kids will call home and say, I'm too warm, or it's hot, whereas another kid sitting next to them is not too hot. So we're going to look at that closely, and what I just said was that every day this month And every day in August, you're going to get calls. And I'm going to get calls every day about air conditioning. So if you want a perfect air conditioning system, then we would never go to school. If you want that in all of our schools. I'm telling you, we had 214 schools start because the air conditioning was working last night. We had only a handful that we had to really think about and put temporary coolers in. The rest of the schools were fine. So ask the kids in the other schools, the 211 schools or 212 schools, and they're going to tell you they were able to work. I mean, the kids at this school, the kids at Pew Elementary, where I was earlier today.
Right in the back. Just a second, we're gonna come around. Go ahead.
We have pictures, parents send us pictures of thermometers, like 87 degrees in the classroom. You mentioned 70 right now,
Mhm.
and you mentioned the word comfortable. How do you know, how do you get to know whose kid is comfortable or not, and what's the meaning of comfortable to you?
Yeah, so I can't speak to any picture because what principals do is they move some kids to a different part of the building. And so maybe there's part, and I don't know if you're talking about Reynolds or you're talking about Heights High School, which we closed. So in any given day, guys, and hopefully you'll remember this discussion when we ask the community, hopefully the board will ask the community for a bond election. And hopefully you'll remember this discussion, that our air conditioning units are failing. They've not been replaced in a long, long time. And so our team did an incredible job to keep those air conditioning units high enough that 214 schools could start, and we only had to close 2 because of the heat, and only 1 because of gas leak. But, you know, 2 weeks from now, we're going to close a couple of schools because of heat. I mean, that's what's going to happen throughout the rest of the summer and the rest of the fall. So let's really thank our workers who've been doing yeoman's job to keep our maintenance system and our air conditioning units working.
All right, let's go to KPRC, then Jason.
I had a compound question. Number one, how would you, it's been only a couple days, but how would you grade yourself and how you handle this disaster? This may be your first one in Houston, and you have quite a few of them. That's number one. Number two, how has been your interaction with the community while you're going through this process?
Yeah, so look, I'm not going to grade myself. What I'm going to do is talk about what does success look like, okay? And you can grade me. What success looks like after Thursday night, Friday morning, when 136 schools were without power, when 4 schools were decimated, well, had significant damage, not decimated, had significant damage. When you have a district this size spread out, with people with their own challenges, our staff, who didn't have power, who didn't have a place. You know, even my apartment didn't have power nor water. And I'm not saying I had it worse than everybody. In fact, everybody else has it a lot worse than I do. And so the staff was working through that, and we were able to move and get 4 of those buildings back online, meaning the physical structure, in just a weekend. And then we worked with Centerpoint, we coordinated with the mayor's office, and we worked overtime to get air conditioning units back up after the power came on, because we couldn't get it up before the power, obviously. So had to wait for the power and then get the air conditioning units working. And the proof is in the pudding. We did not have to close schools as a result of anything we had control over. We only had to close schools because there's no power. And then in a couple cases, air conditioning units. So I think the team did a great job in getting kids back to school so quickly. Is it going to be perfect when you have this many, and when you have old buildings, when you have that many air conditioning units? No, it's not going to be perfect. We've been communicating with our parents and communities since Friday. In fact, you all have played a big part of that. I think a lot of people in the was informed not only by the news. We also had social media. We also had emails. We also had principals calling. We tried every single means because a lot of people didn't have internet or power. So when you don't have internet and power, we have to kind of go old school and pick up the phone and call, or go. In some cases, principals and word of mouth. Some people even knocked on doors. So it's it was a all hands on deck effort, and so I think the team did very well.
Jason, go ahead. Superintendent Miles, if part of a school has AC and another part doesn't, for instance, I spoke with some folks at Tiarena Elementary, the cafeteria, for instance, didn't have power, other classrooms did. They shuffled some kids around. If part of the school has AC, then that school will open.
Yeah, so every situation a little bit different. If in that case, and I don't know the specifics around that school, but I can imagine if the cafeteria was the only place that didn't have air, and the classrooms did. If I was the principal, I would have moved the lunches to the classroom. I would have had kids pick up their lunch, go to the classroom, and eat there or eat in the hallway. I mean, I would have figured it out. So so I don't know is the answer. It depends on the school. I know that we have air conditioning units where you have or rooftop units that only are in one part of the building. If that one goes down, the remaining rest of the school, 80%, 90% could be functioning well, but these 4 classrooms over here are too hot. And so if a child says, calls mom and says, my school does not have air conditioning. Well, that's not exactly true. So we always have what we call one source of truth, and that's the operations office, because they're the ones who then send technicians out, make sure the temperature, is it one building, is it one RTU, is it other, is it the HVAC, is it the chiller, can we get the chiller back up? So we're loath to say, we're going to close the school just because these 4 classrooms are too hot.
Who makes the decision to send messages to families? Like they're attributed to the principal. Is the principal making those decisions? And when can they make the call to communicate with families if there are AC outages?
So principals should continually talk to their parents, and they are able to make that decision about what's happening. Let me tell you what's going on. It's only 2 rooms. It's the whole school. The chiller just went down. The temperature 78 degrees. This is the kind of information we get, by the way. We ask for the temperature in the rooms instead of just saying it's warm, it's hot, it's cold. And so the principal can communicate that information. The parents should communicate that information to parents. And then the district also, from the office, the operations office, will also send out information.
All right, any other questions?
Many,
Go ahead.
many of we're talking about the school with AC, but also you have students that are having issues at home right now, living in some of these communities that are impacted. I know on the 31st, it's the end of the year MAP testing. How are you balancing the need for testing and also students who are living in some of these communities that were impacted? And my second part to that question is, you expressed some concerns about in January, regrets about closing school during the freeze. Did that play a part in your decision to make sure students are going to school and not closing?
So there's a couple questions there. Let me just take a couple of them. Number one of the reasons why we're so concerned about kids and trying to get the schools open is because we recognize that we have kids at home whose food were perishable. Families had to restock, and even $50 is a lot of money for some of our families to have lost in food. We have kids who are at home with no power, no air conditioning. It's hot. So that's one of the reasons why we should not wait to open the school if we can open the school. That's one reason. That's why we're distributing food at the schools that were closed. Because I said these kids, you don't know the situation of kids out here in the underserved areas. I am positive there's some food deserts or food shortages, and and kids need a meal that the school provides. So we're doing what we can. We can't open a school without power, but that's why it's so urgent to get kids in school. I mean, we could. It may be easy to say, well, why did you just not open school today? That would have been worse for kids. Your second part is instruction. Look, what I've said before in the winter and any other time anybody would listen is that we need to be urgent. We need to grow a culture of essentialness. We're it. If you want to have kids first, then we adults need to do what we can do to support their education, support their families, and give them the best education possible. And we don't have a day to waste. So, yes, kids have a choice of staying home always. And today they were excused. Tomorrow they'll be excused if they don't come because we recognize that if you don't have water, you don't have power. Sometimes it's hard to come to school. But so we are going to continue to push instruction. The kids at Pew Elementary School today, that's the only one I got into today, but all of our schools are providing instruction for our kids. It was like a normal teaching day. Are we worried about the NWA, the assessment at the end of the year? Luckily, we've already taken the star, but yes, we want to put our best foot forward on the NWA. That's another reason for trying to get as many schools open as we possibly can. And so tomorrow we're hoping we get more schools open, and hopefully by Wednesday, we'll have all the schools in play. And if it's a long-term thing, we'll still look at that. We still have, counting this week, we still have 3 weeks to go. So, 2.5 weeks, and that's important for kids.
And did staff members, did they have the same excuse that you mentioned that the students are allowed?
So with staff members, we want all staff to report, and if they have unique experience, exceptions for not coming to school, they need to talk to their principal, and the principal can allow those exceptions. But we want those to be unique and exceptional circumstances. We need all of our adults hands on deck to help our kids.
Have any of the AC outages or the gas leak at Lamar, was that linked to the storm damage in any way?
Hard to say. I mean, I don't think the gas leak was. I'm not sure. I don't know how there was a leak, so I can't say for sure on Lamar. On the other two, the only thing I can say is the storm, because the power was out and air conditioning units go down. We have to restart them, reboot them, and it didn't help. The storm didn't help our air conditioning situation. Whether there's a direct correlation in those two schools, hard to say.
May I just confirm, when you say air conditioning situation, are you referring to the age of the units?
Well, everything, all of the above. I mean, we have some that are really old, and that's the case. We have others that may have an electrical problem. So, could the storm have affected the units? Yeah, could, but I can't say for sure in any one school.
Yes, at Sinclair on Saturday, you mentioned that there may be opportunities at some of the open schools to find space for students at closed schools to be relocated to temporarily. Is that something that's still progressing? Should parents of students at closed schools expect anytime soon for that kind of announcement to be made that there's going to be relocation?
Yeah, so over the long term, I probably said the only school where we might have to relocate kids is Sinclair. All the other schools do not have to be relocated. The footnote to that is if we have a school whose power cannot come on by Monday or Tuesday of next week, we're going to have to do something with those schools. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case, but we're gonna look at that closely. So Sinclair, yes, we already know for the rest of the school year, some kids will have to be transported. Now, Sinclair was not open today because of power, not because of the facility.
Last question. Is there anything that HISD is doing, maybe you're responsible for it or not, about
Yeah, so we first of all, every school that was closed, we also distributed food for students. It wasn't a citywide or area-wide, community-wide distribution point at the school. That's for our kids, and so we distributed food to our kids. We at the Sunrise Centers, we were distributing food broadly. So today I was at Brock Sunrise Center. You will recall there's 7 Sunrise Centers, and we got some food from United Way, but we also emptied our own pantries and gave out food. And when I got to Brock, there was a long line of cars. And so at 4 of our Sunrise Centers, they had food distribution. Tomorrow, I think it's 3 others. So we're going to empty our pantries for now because we think this is a short-term problem, at least to recover from the storm. And then we'll refill the pantries. So we're helping where we can. I know the city. By the way, I didn't thank the city, the mayor, Judge Hidalgo. That they've all been working furiously. We've been talking. They've been trying to get as many schools up as possible. For example, Centerpoint gave us 5 mobile generators last night, and so those 5 schools will be up tomorrow. We didn't want to because it was late last night. So Centerpoint's helping. Everybody's trying to do a good job. We're not the only organization, right, that needs power. There's 1/3 of Harris County needed it, so I think they've been doing an amazing job. I'm very, very grateful that they're also paying attention to schools.
Any challenge on special ed students with special, we know there's several of them, and any challenges right now with this kind of situation? Maybe there's an extra protocol that you can.
Yeah, so we asked that question of the SPED director today, and looks like the special ed department in the schools are doing fine. The special needs kids in the schools that I talked about that closed have the same challenges as all the other kids. So nothing unique right now for our special ed kids. They're in the schools and they're getting the services that they need.
We work with the Houston Food Bank today for the Sunrise Center, and then for Lamar, the natural gas leak was related to one of the chillers. The HVAC system then blew the odor into the building.
Yeah, so the gas leak is more, so it wasn't about the air conditioning so much as blowing the gas leak odor into the school. And then, yeah, what was the Houston Food Bank? I'm sorry, I think I said United Way. Thank you. So please correct the record on that, the Houston Food Bank.
All right. Will these school days each be, are they going to be made up?
So at this point, I don't think we will have to make them up. I mean, we're back. We've only missed Friday. Now, some schools we're going to see if we need to make them. I don't think so right now. I think we have enough time for the kids. It really depends on if we can get them back up by Wednesday or Thursday. We'll be fine.
Just to be clear, by 6 o'clock, parents should know if their schools are going to open tomorrow.
That's correct.
All right. You got one more question? Are you good?
You're
All right.
good.
Perfect. Any other questions? All right. Thank y'all so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, sir.